Hey everybody, David here, and welcome to the ASOG podcast. What goes through the mind of an A-level technician when they're about to put in their notice? What drives them to the point where they finally decide to leave? Are they leaving for more pay? Maybe it's better benefits? Maybe a better schedule? Well, Lucas and I sat down to have this discussion with Cody Gaddie of Cody's Auto Diagnostics in Tucson, Arizona. Cody started his career as an entry-level technician and worked his way up to become his company's lead diagnostician. But he left for another shop, and eventually he had to go out on his own as a mobile diagnostician. Cody candidly speaks on why he eventually moved out of a shop and now works for himself. Before we begin, however, hit that like button if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, or make sure that you have the podcast set to automatically download the latest episode on your favorite podcast listening app. And now, here we go.
Cody, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Good. How about you guys?
I am fantastic, man. Fantastic.
Did you hear any of my radiator story, Cody?
I did. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
This wasn't meant to be funny. You were supposed to sympathize with me.
I did, but I laughed on the other end because I've been there. So that was a lot of work for. Hey, now you got a new AC machine, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, he needed.
I don't know.
New AC machine.
So I find out that no one in Kansas City has a flippin' 1234 YF machine. At least none of the repair shops. And everybody, I'm talking to place after place, and they're all like, "Just go take it to the dealer." I'm like, screw those guys. I'm not taking it to the dealer. No, I want to find at least a local repair shop that I can just zip on over, have them suck it down for me. I'll pay them whatever. But at least hook me up, help me out. And no, they're like, no, I don't know anybody who has one.
Well, and here's the thing. Now you can be that guy.
That's it. Hey,
look, here's the thing.
Look, Mr. Positive over here. David, you needed Mr. Positive in your life.
Positive perspective.
Right. That's right.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
I'm very standoffish, and I'm like,
Oh, trust me, I get it. I got my one of my old shops that I worked at. We ended up. I talked them into the 1234 YF machine, and after getting that,
like early on.
Well,
like
this
17?
was like 2 years ago.
That's
so
pretty early on.
Fairly, I mean, even though it's it's been out for 7 years now.
That's crazy.
When we say the new refrigerant, it's not really new anymore. But anyway, but here's the thing. I mean, get the word out to other repair shops and body shops and everything else. And it's nothing to suck it down and fill it up. And
my main contact to all the other shops in the area is my Snap-on guy, right? Because I buy a lot of stuff from my Snap-on guy, and because he takes good care of us, and he's always there to help us out at 3:45 on Friday with some stupid tool that we need to finish some job. He hooks me up. He takes really good care of us. And he wanted to sell me the machine, but one, I couldn't get it quick enough, and two, I think his cheapest machine is $9,000, which is way more than I ended up spending with the Molly machine. And I ended up telling him today. I saw him at a different shop where I was picking something else up, and I tell him, hey, I ended up getting a Molly machine. He's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I think it's a piece of crap, this, that, and the other. I think he's a little butthurt. So I don't think he is going to go around to other shops and go, hey, take it to the guy who didn't buy my machine. But you should maybe think about buying my machine. He didn't, but you should take your stuff to him. I'm not friendly like Lucas. Lucas makes friends with all his local shops. I'm not an outgoing person.
I don't know about all that. Especially if they listen to the podcast, they probably don't like me very much. I mean, look, you got to be transparent, though. You got to be honest.
Yeah, you do. And that's where I was like, man, do I do this podcast or not? Because It's no, and obviously I wanted to do it, but it's just one of those that, I'm sure I'm going to offend some people and
are you going to offend them with your thoughts, or are you going to offend them just because you're now associated with Lucas and myself?
Oh, probably both.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple concept there.
That's not good. I'm starting to wonder about the reputation we have.
No. And it's all good. My thing is, obviously, I don't like talking bad about any shops or previous shops that I've worked at, but coming into this podcast, I can pretty much only go off of my experience as a technician. And I've been in a couple shops, in the last 15 years. And, so it's, I spent 14 years of that in 16 years in 14 years in one shop and 2 years in two separate shops. So, I was excited to do this podcast, but there needs to be a change. I feel
definitely.
that in this industry, and hence kind of why I'm doing my own thing and being mobile and stuff now is because of the bad taste I got in my mouth because of some shop owners and stuff. So I think it's good that we're doing this and just to change things around and get some information out for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, so I'll tell you where all this started. A good friend of mine named Jen is a shop owner, and she goes into a couple groups and she posts that she's looking for technicians, and she wasn't trying to hire technicians from the group. She just said, if you're a technician and you were looking to change employers, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And we all know how the groups are. There were some ridiculous comments. I mean, 80% of the labor rate and this, that, or the other, blah, 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 blah. And it became exceptionally apparent that some of them were trolls, but then there were these realistic ones who didn't really understand the shop operational side of things. And then it also became apparent that they weren't being treated well. And, just the other day, we were having this conversation in one of the groups, and the conversation turns to training. And I'm like, hey, somebody said, who's coming to this event? I love AST. It's an event I go to every year. And all these guys are like, yeah, if I had the money, I would go. And I'm like, what? Hold up. Your boss doesn't pay for that? Whoa, that's weird to me. Right. And we began to talk about it. And it seems like this is a pretty big problem.
It is.
Techs aren't really being appreciated and they're not being trained. What's your perspective of that? Are we as an industry just missing the ball completely?
So to go off your comment as far as the training, the company, I'm going to refer to my one shop that I spent 14 years at, because that's pretty much the shop that I started from the ground level and just built my reputation and became the tech that I am today and stuff. It was a great company. They did pay for training. They wouldn't pay for you to attend training, but they would pay for training. And that would be local training like ATG or O'Reilly's, or we have Merle's does some factory training and stuff. So that would be, if you wanted to go, you had to register and you could go to these trainings. And don't get me wrong, any training is better than no training. And
right.
I started attending when I was still super green. I just started attending every single one of these classes I could get my hands on. So there's weeks I was going to 3 different classes a week, and the shop would pay for it. So that was awesome. Now fast forward a little bit to when I realized, once I start networking with guys like yourself and getting out there and realizing that I had no idea of the ASTE, of the Vision, of the Super Saturday, of all these other awesome trainings that, we are not physically going to see here locally. We're lucky to have ATG, and ATG is the cream of the crop when it comes to local training here. But if you want anything else, you're going to have to travel. So I bring this up to, I paid out of my pocket to go to Super Saturday 2 years ago, or the last time they had it live. And man, it was just such an experience, not just from the networking, but the training that I don't get locally. It was just I mean, that one day it just like changed my career to be around so many guys that have the same kind of passion. And so I came back from that just ramped up. I'm like, you know what? Local training is awesome, even though I'm the only one out of the shop that I worked for, the company I worked for had 15 shops here in Tucson. And it would be me and two other guys maybe at some of these classes. I was at every single one. These other two guys would be at, it'd be hit or miss if they were attending. And people out of 50, 60 technicians in the whole company, nobody was taking advantage of this free training. And
that's crazy to me.
It's absolutely crazy because they want to get paid to go to the training. They shouldn't have to work a full day, and then they should have the training paid, and then they should also be benefiting to be going to the training. Not like you're not going to learn anything. I never thought that way.
Well, you're
I'd work
a flat rate.
Exactly. They'd want, I want to get paid 2 hours to go to the class or something. And
but they're on flat rate, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's me. I looked at it differently as far as this was free education. I ended up not going to UTI right out of high school and stuff. So I was just getting any kind of training I could possibly get. And like I said, even if that meant coming out of pocket, like going to Super Saturday. So I go to the CEO of the company and I mentioned, Super Saturday, and I was like, this training is just, it was awesome. I think it'd be ideal if we could, I'm not saying just me or even sending me, but I think it would be a good idea each year to, send a handful of guys, whether it be managers, because there's management training, all this training that's out there, and my company never provided any kind of management training. So all these technicians have to do all this training, but managers or service writers, there's no training for them. So that's, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later and stuff. But there's training for every single avenue of this industry, and it shouldn't just be technicians going to the training. It shouldn't just be managers going to the training. I think it needs to be, if you're going to work as a whole, you all need to participate. And my shop was pretty much like, or the company I was at that time was, that we're not making that kind of investment for airfare and everything else. Then they mentioned, as far as like, what about getting these classes locally? And that's when I reached out to Brandon Steckler and I was like, hey, would you do your class local to us and stuff? And I was trying in the process of getting that all set up and everything. And then that's when like COVID and stuff happened. So it was one of those, man, I'm doing all this legwork to bring these classes to them, since they don't want to send the guys out to these trainings. And it just, I started building resentment because they did not see the value in it. And I'm there with, managers and shop owners and other people in the industry that are just like so excited to be there that it's an amazing experience. And here I come back to my company and I feel deflated. They're like, it's not worth it. I'm like, you have no idea it's not worth it.
I see two perspectives of that. And so one of the perspectives is, and this is probably going to upset some technicians, and I don't mean it in a negative light, but I think many shop owners have been burnt by technicians who just don't give a damn. Right. And by that, I mean, we've all had, I know David's hired some, I know I have hired some. I have experienced a technician who, he would go to the training if you asked him to go, but you were just throwing money down the drain. You'd go out and find the guy over there, walking out of class to go have a drink or go get some food, but wasn't even in the class. And, I found them not engaging. Now, listen, the technicians I have now, that's not them. So I want to be clear to all shop owners, that is not giving you an excuse to not pay for training, not paying your guys for going to training, not covering some of those expenses. And let me just say right now, if you want to talk about a culture building event, go to training, take the guys to the arcade, take the guys to red go-karts, go to Topgolf, do something, but get out and be part of your team. Right? Work with your team. Being involved with your team is a tremendous growth opportunity for your business. But Cody, one of the things that we've all seen over and over again is a technician who's not willing to drive themselves forward. It's always about, what do I get? Yet it's nothing about, hey, here's how I'm bettering myself. Here's how I'm making myself a better technician. Here's my goals. Here's what I'm striving for. It's I expect, but nothing in return. And so I think when I say, we've all experienced technicians like that, there are some of those in the industry. Now, I get into these groups and I see everybody, harping on shop owners. It's all shop owners. It's all shop owners. The majority of shop owners are bad. I'm telling you, I mean, I talk to a lot of shop owners. They're not. There are bad shop owners, just like there are bad technicians. How do we bridge that gap? Where do we go from here?
Yeah. And that's, that's easier said than done. Yeah. I think what you said as far as, getting all your guys together and doing things as far as maybe not shop related, go karting, doing things as a team and stuff. I think that's the first step. Honestly, because the thing is, spending time at the shop and everything else, we all know that. I mean, it's our second family. We're actually spending more time with people that we work with than we do at our own houses, our own families and stuff at home. So, if we can build that kind of camaraderie and granted, I know there are so many technicians that they need that incentive in order to go to the training. And it is hard. It's hard to work a 10, 11 hour day and then go sit in a class for 4 to 5, 6 hours or whatever. And it is. And I had a different drive, and, so I look at it, as the shop owner and stuff, that, if out of 60 technicians in this company, there's 2 or 3 taking advantage of the training, why, honestly, as a shop owner, I wouldn't want to be sending my guys out of state because they don't even take advantage of the local,
Exactly. Yep.
So I see that. And how do you get the fire underneath these technicians, asked to push them to want to better themselves? Me, I had to do it for myself. I wanted to be the best that I could be, not better than anybody else, but just be better than I was the day before. And I'm a lot of my education is self-taught. And then I started networking with guys and meeting guys like, Mario Rojas and Scanner Danner, and realizing that there's a whole nother like community out there. And then realizing about Vision and Super Saturday and all these other things, man, it just completely changed where I didn't know if I wanted to be a technician anymore a couple, years ago, it just lit that fire under my ass again. And it made me really love the industry again. But then I see, I go to these shop owners just all excited, like, man, we need to go to this training and this and that. And no, training's not worth it. And, so it's a deflating moment, and
Definitely
the networking with you guys, realizing, seeing how you guys take care of the technicians and everything else, man, once I started networking is once I realized, I came out of the shell of working in a shop for 14 years within the same company, realizing like, man, there are some like companies that really, really value technicians and really go above and beyond in things that like I struggled with current, at my situation, at my shop. And, so networking and seeing all these amazing shops out there and everything that they're doing, man, it made me want to better my company. So I'd go to my company and be like, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? Putting out, ideas of things to make us better, to move us forward, whether it be getting into ADOS or, like I was mentioning earlier, the 1234YF machine, to, moving forward, not just sitting stagnant. And man, and I just was shot down and shot down and shot down. And it was frustrating. Realizing that, there are shop owners that really, truly care. I ended up leaving that company and going to another company that I thought I found what I see on Facebook and with you guys and like, Kurt Kennedy and his company and everything else, that, something that I don't have to drive, or I don't have to travel across the United States to go work for them. And it was a lot of false promises to get me in the door, and then 3 months after I'm there, it was everything that they said that they were going to do, they backed out of. So now I'm back to square one. I feel like I want to push these companies farther, and maybe maybe my standards are just too high. I don't know. That's my situation anyway. That was my frustrations.
So one of the things, on that subject, right, is that we keep talking about, technicians that leave, technicians that are unhappy. And you've shared that, hey, there were a lot of broken promises. I think in a shop owner's mind, the most common thing that comes up is, well, it was money. It was money. It was money. Right. And they think that the number one way to hire a tech is just keep promising more money, and to the point they feel like they don't have any more money to promise, and the tech wasn't as productive as they thought they could be. They didn't have the throughput, and there's lots of reasons, especially when it comes to the profitability of the business. They will get into a situation where they have got to, promise this amount to the tech, and it's on the tech billing 40 hours every single week or more. So I guess my question for you is it just money? Is that what let you down in the shops you went to?
Okay, so no, absolutely not. The shop that I was at for 14 years, well, I should say, let me rephrase that. Yes and no. The shop that I was at for 14 years, it got to the point that, I continued to grow and grow and grow. And my company ended up getting bought out by this company that came in, and wants to turn into this huge tire conglomerate, which granted, we never did tires before this. Now they're trying to compete with Discount Tire. So our whole business model for our company, where we are 100% service and repair, now went to we're 90% tires and now 10% service. They want to say it's 50-50, and it's absolutely not. So once that happened and all these changes came in and everything else, I saw this company heading a different direction. And I realized that the money that I was making, because I was making extremely good money, but on that flip side of making this extremely good money, being flat rate, at the end of the year, yes, my numbers were awesome. I made good money, but that doesn't include the weeks that I was there at 5:00 in the morning. Doesn't include the weeks I was there till 10:00 at night. It doesn't include like all the overtime that I put in year after year, because I want to make more money than I did the year before working flat rate. It's a competition with myself, and knowing if there's work sitting at the shop, my anxiety level, I'm one of those, I would rather be, doing something. If I'm sitting at home and not doing anything, man, I'd rather wake up at 5 a.m. and head into the shop and make some money. So the numbers at the end, like I was saying, the numbers at the end of the year looked awesome, but that was a lot of sacrifice, those 14 years away from my family. 6 years of that, I was working 6 days a week. So, is it all about the money? No, with that company, it got to a point that I had to sit down with them, and this sit down lasted about 2.5 hours. And this was with the CEO of the company that just bought us out. And I was pretty much talking business with him. I was asking him, hey, where is this company going in the next 5 years? And because I wanted to see, does it line up with what I see? And he says, pretty much it boils down to that they don't want to make investments into the changing technology. They want to continue doing alignments, brakes, struts, shocks, and tires. Okay. And, that's all fine and good. But no change to move forward. So, that then we started discussing my pay, and I was pretty much told that he can, if I ended up leaving, he can hire four tire guys to bust out tires and stuff for what he pays me. And I was like, okay, that's all fine and good. So
Peace, I'm out.
Exactly. Well, and and I recorded this whole conversation too, and it's fun to go back and listen to it because I was actually listening to it last week before coming on this podcast, just to remember like what was my frustrations, and yeah, I pretty much got told that I am the highest paid technician within the company and that there's no room for me to grow. Okay, well, I don't care about the money, but what you just said right now, as far as there's no more room for me to grow. Okay, I'm stuck. And if I feel stuck, then I just feel that I'm spinning my wheels, and that I I don't. That's an uncomfortable feeling for me. So that was my last conversation. That's I put in my 2 weeks, and I ended up leaving to this other company, and I ended up making, a significant amount less. And did that hurt? Yes, but I also don't live outside my means and stuff. So I was able to I was able to survive. But what frustrated me with that company was, like I was saying, was the false promises. So is it about money? It's a yes and no answer, honestly.
So let me ask, right? And I get if you can't say it, what were those promises? Because there's a lot of shop owners listening thinking,
Yeah.
well, I've told somebody something and I didn't feel like they held up to their end of the bargains and something didn't work out. There wasn't, and I don't want to give them that excuse, and I don't want us to make excuses for that. If we tell someone we're going to do something, we should do it, right? I think that's the way it is. And I make that mistake. I tell my guys all the time, there's things that I've told them we're going to do that have completely slipped my mind, that I've just forgot about. It's not intentional. And if they remind me, we try and make it happen. Can you share what it was that they didn't meet their promise with?
Absolutely. So when I went in, when I had the sit down and everything, I wanted to make sure I had everything in writing, because I ended, a couple of years ago, I ended up taking a break from the shop that I was at for 14 years, and I went to another shop, and it sounds like I jumped all over the place, but I really, honestly, I hate change. I hate jumping shop to shop, but again, there was promises made and stuff that didn't hold up. So this time I was like, I'm going to do things differently, and I need to get things in writing. So one of the things was, that I wanted was, obviously it's flat rate, but I wanted a guarantee, a hybrid system. I at least know I'm going to be bringing this home, whether that's, let's say, a 30-hour guarantee. And, but at that time I was flagging, 80 to 100 hours a week. So I'm like, just give me something little, just that way I know I'm at least going to make this, because I'm driving all the way across town. My clientele is on the other side of town. So I don't have the following like I did at this other location. So it was the hybrid system, which they held up to the pay structure as far as that. The other was, I wanted to be able to sit down and have a sit down once a month and go over, things that I see that we can like help change, or, you know, how to make things run smoother. And that was one of the reasons why this company wanted to bring me on, is because they wanted me to bring them up to speed, get into the programming, getting in, possibly getting into the ADOS systems, getting in, moving this company into the next level. And so these monthly sit downs, it lasted January. I started in January 1st, 2 years ago, and it lasted January, February, and March. And then after March, there was no more sit downs. So that was, during that same time, they were opening up 2 more locations up in Phoenix and stuff, which I understand, you get busy and everything else. But then it just became, instead of bringing it up like, oh, hey, I forgot and stuff this month, then it just became, we're just not going to do it. But during these sit downs, I wanted to look at the P&Ls. I think it's huge for a technician, and maybe not complete, show everything, but I think it's smart for a technician to see kind of the business end of things too, as far as, look, we charge, let's say, $150 an hour, flat, an hour. That doesn't mean that, the shop owners like your guys' self are raking in all this money and stuff, because there's the electric, the lights, the mortgage, all these payments that it leaves pennies at the end of that $150 that technicians don't see. So to show like, look, this is everything that costs the money, the P&Ls, just I guess being completely transparent on the business end. At least that's what I wanted for myself, because that's what this company wanted me to do with them. So it wasn't just me going in like, hey, look, I want to look at your P&Ls and this is what I need to in order to come here. This is something that they suggested to me, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, it makes me feel that I'm part of the team.
Be part of the business.
Exactly. It makes you feel that you have stake in the game, that you're not just a number, you're not just an employee. How I felt at my previous shop, where I was just a number out of they wanted to have 500 stores in a matter of 5 years. So of course I'm just a number. Who's Cody? While with this company, I felt like, man, we can really take this into the next level and really, man, just make this some of these shops that I see like like your guys's, just something that to be proud of. And so that was one of the things that got let down. And so the monthly sit downs, the P&Ls, what else was it? In the fourth quarter, we were going to talk about the ADOS systems, look into that and stuff. And as far as, because we had a location up in Phoenix that has a perfect, they have a shop behind their shop that has no bays or anything else. And even though it wasn't going to be at my location, they wanted me to help set it up and stuff and get the ball rolling on that. And they didn't know the first place to turn to get started on that. Well, with my contacts and everything else, I was like, I can definitely lend a hand on this. I can get you in touch with the right people. We can get this taken care of. That was another thing that was just honestly never talked about again. I know it's a huge expense, but I also know that there's a market for it, if especially in Phoenix. And it's not, it was these things, the other thing, I'm thankful that that I got it in writing and that I had that hybrid guarantee, because, I went from the shop that, man, I was usually the highest guy in the company as far as flagging hours, to now I just went to this other company and I feel like I just started all over. I couldn't break 20 hours a week. And
Right.
So what's going on? So it's not completely about money, but man, if I didn't ask for that guarantee and I went in there and I was just on the hybrid pay, oh man, I don't even know. Want to know what I would have made last year.
What caused the dip?
Yeah. Oh, what caused the dip?
Yeah.
Man, this shop. So where I was at before, it's all volume, we'll see 30, 40 cars a day. Saturdays, anywhere from 45 to 50 cars. And, this other location, they'll do appointments, and it's, out of like 4 technicians, they'd book like 6 appointments. So it definitely wasn't the fast paced, which was nice in a sense, because everybody wants their car done, it was just the business, this, the flow, the structure, getting the stuff sold took weeks. I don't know. I mean,
did you say weeks?
Weeks, absolutely weeks. I mean,
we take hours sometimes, and it's like, hey, come on, man, what's going on?
And
here?
that's just it. Our parking lot, we had a big area in the back where we'd park all the vehicles and stuff, and it would just be full. And it's full of cars. There's thousands of dollars of money sitting there, of potential money sitting there, of work to be sold, but it's not sold yet, and it's been weeks, if not months, and that's just I don't. That was definitely very frustrating.
So you would say that poor shop management is as much an issue as pay?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. I'm curious about the shop that had customers coming in and allowing their vehicles to sit. Not that I don't have one or two, because, projects. But to have an entire parking lot full of vehicles that aren't moving.
I wondered the same thing. I still wonder the same thing.
How do they come back? I mean, the customer at some point is going to go, I could probably find a shop that can do this in, half the time, a third of the time, same day.
Right.
Next
Well, and
day,
it wasn't. I don't know if they just weren't on them as far as trying to get the work sold within a timely manner or anything. But you pretty much knew that after you wrote something up, if it's a break job or whatever, you pretty much you put it back together and pull it out and pull something else in. That's if there's more work for you. Just knowing that it's just a process. And they also had the rental, not the
you're gonna
rental
have
cars,
to
but
PM me these people's names. I'm interested in finding out what marketing that they're doing to keep these customers coming in. You're saying they're expanding too. Didn't you mention that?
Yep. Yeah, they were opening up 2 more locations up in Phoenix and everything. And like I
Oh,
s- eh, so I don't,
this is fascinating to me. Hold on for a second. Let's not get off this point here because I'm interested. Hold on. I just want to make sure I'm clear here. So these people are marketing, however they're marketing to these customers to the point where they've expanded to several locations with the specific process of bringing in X amount of cars a day and then letting the cars sit there while they, or get around to selling the work and then maybe getting the work out the door. Did everything just sit under, waiting for authorization or?
Yep. Absolutely. So we were using the digital video or digital inspections, and
Yeah.
so the program and everything. Man, I would have a computer screen filled with waiting for authorization, waiting for authorization, waiting for authorization. That it's just, I mean, even when I left, there was probably 5 or 6 cars that were still under my name. That half of them were torn apart. I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
That's crazy.
That's interesting.
It is.
It's crazy.
And I can't
get
put
that
my
it's
finger
crazy,
on.
but I don't know. Because if it's waiting for the authorization, you've presented the work, and I mean, I'll let the vehicle sit if we've done everything we're supposed to do. So we get the vehicle in, we inspect it, we quote everything up, we send it to the customer, we have a conversation. I know a lot of shops the shops with owners that have boats. They make sure they get the sale closed. Like, let's get this rolling. Let's get this done today, tomorrow, whatever. For the most part, these people need their cars. So I never have to put that kind of pressure on my customers. Like they need their car back. Like they want to know how fast. It's not even how much. It's like, how long do I have to wait?
Yep.
And especially now with the stimmy money out, it's like, how fast can I get my car back? I don't care what it costs. Just do it all. I need this car back. And even if they were setting everything out, eventually you do run out of work. Like you're saying, you're flagging 20 hours when you were doing 80 before. I mean, they've ran out of work, sold work.
Yeah. Yep.
And if we're getting close to that point now, if the car's sitting, especially if the car's sitting in my shop, I'm making phone calls. Like, what are we doing here? Like, do I need to get you financed? The vehicle can't be driven. What do we need to do? And then we're having that conversation with the customer to push the process along. But I don't know. I don't know that I would get to the point where, okay, my guy's going to stand around. I mean, unless I just ran out of everything, which does happen.
And it does. And so one of the things that I liked about the business model was this new shop had, I think, either 7 or 8 loaner cars. And and what was presented to me.
There it goes, right there.
Yep. So and trust me, and I thought
quantity of how many do you have, Lucas?
5, 6, something like maybe.
No,
7.
you do not. Don't lie. I thought you had 8.
Right, but one got wrecked.
Yeah, that means he has 12.
Yeah,
so he's saying 8. That means 12.
I don't know. I'll give you the login to the loaner software. Just log in and take a look.
I'm still waiting on my title for my 4th and 5th.
So I can't.
I know this is completely like unhelpful to anybody other than me asking about these inane questions. I apologize.
I just can't wrap my head around this.
What's that?
I can't wrap my head.
Look, you want to run a slow-paced operation. I run a slow-paced operation, Cody. I'll be 100% transparent. I don't get into a rush to do anything unless the customer's like pressing, right, and they need their car back. But and or money is getting tight, like cash flow is drying up, and I'm like, I got a bill or two coming up I got to pay for. It's like, hey, let's get this moving. So I'm calling the customer, or I'm pressing the text, say, hey, I need to get this out the door. I got bills coming up, whatever. If that's not the case, it's whatever. Like, take your time. I don't get upset about it. Everybody's kind of la-di-dying about their day, except for one tech who's running around, feels, unproductive is what he tells me. I feel unproductive. But for the most part, it's, I don't press. It's fine. I'm okay with it because I'm not worried about the money. Like, Lucas will call me. It's like, I wish we had done X amount of dollars. We could have had a record month. And I'm like, what? I can't relate to that. I'm like, I used to do that back in the day when it was like, but now I'm like, yeah, that's just like more paperwork for me. That's like a higher tax bill I got to calculate. And I don't care. Like, it's whatever to me. The bills are paid. I'm paid. The checks are paid. The bills are, it's whatever. So I kind of understand that. But here's the catch. Here's the caveat. I'm not opening up a second, third, or fourth location. One, I do not want to. But if those were my aspirations, I couldn't operate my shop the way I operate it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, now I have to try. I have to put like real effort into it. Like, I have to go in and go, hey, what's my payroll percentage look like? I'm a little, like, I'm heavy on payroll right now, but that just, lets me do other things. So I'm okay with that. It's okay spending the extra payroll, but if I would needed to run leaner so I could, put more money in the bank and therefore be able to open that second or third or fourth location, like I couldn't operate my shop the way I do now. It's just, but you're telling me these people are doing it. They're living the dream. They're doing it super slow and to their own pace, but also getting second and third locations. These people are unicorns.
Well, and I can't say so. The other location that's here in town, they would do some stellar numbers. Our location just not so much. The other location is the original location and everything. So I don't know if
maybe that makes more sense then.
Oh, well, I'm still intrigued though. I'm over here like, I guess the technician in me is trying to figure out what's wrong with their business. I am trying to do a testing routine within.
Well, he's saying that 4 technicians and he's getting 6 cars in the door. That's just not enough cars.
Right.
2 technicians, 6 cars is okay.
So
if your ARO's in line, that's not bad. But
yeah, we run 3 cars a day per tech. So, yeah. At the very, very most. And at that, we're booking out.
What's your build hours per RO?
5 or 6, depending on what the week looks like.
You should know this number. You don't want to say.
Okay, 4.5.
Okay, well, there you go.
But it will run up to 5 or 6. Let's look. I honestly don't know right this minute. We're going to go look.
But 3 seems like in my shop, if I've got 3 per day per tech, that keeps us humping. We're moving. It's enough to process, and we'll sell enough work on. We won't sell everything on every car, but we'll sell enough on 3 or 4 cars that it justifies having all 9 in there, and it pays the bills. So that seems to be a sweet spot, but we don't hit 9 every single day. It'll sometimes be 7, and then my service advisor will freak out, and it'll turn into 3 because we're backlogged. Right now, we're backlogged with sold work. We've got enough work to go 2 weeks without getting another car in the door, and we'll still have work.
Yeah, and I will say, so the difference between those 2 companies, obviously the one is, I like to refer to it as like the company I was at for 14 years, like it was the McDonald's of the automotive industry, because they just wanted to turn and burn. Like I said, it was nothing for myself. I'd get handed 7-8 cars a day at 8:00 in the morning, and then continued to, here, do this oil change, and then do this, and then that was just the drivability work or diagnostic work and stuff that I had. So man, I'm used to working out of 3 bays and then cars behind the 3 bays behind that. And I'm used to having multiple things going on at one time. And it kept me busy. It kept my mind active. And when I was at work, man, don't even really talk. Like I'm just focused on work. I wouldn't eat. I was there to work. So being told, about
See,
this
like,
other
I can't
company.
even relate to that. I mean, I understand that, but lunch is an event at our shop. It's everybody walking around for 30 minutes asking, where are you going? I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. What do you feel like? I don't know. Let's get some. And of course, my thing's fried chicken. So I'm like, let's go get some chicken sandwiches. And then
Fried
everybody
chicken and nipple
goes, and then
lips.
we're all sitting and eating, and nobody's eating together. We're not talking to each other. We're just very focused in on our food.
But after I eat, I'm ready for a nap, and so I don't have enough. I have too much work to take a nap. So I'm like, man, I need to get this stuff done. I can't slow down. So I'll eat at the end of the day, and I'm still like that, even being mobile and stuff. So being told that this is a different kind of shop, and it's not as fast a pace and everything, it was kind of a selling point to me at the beginning because I mean, first of all, like I said, it's not always about money. I wanted, I didn't, I beat my body up for 14 years, like, bad. It took a toll on me and made me age as far as, with back issues and everything else, that if I keep going on that same pace, I'm not going to be 60 years old still standing upright.
Yeah.
So I had to think about the future and stuff. And maybe it is taking, not making as much, but making still a decent salary, and not working as fast a pace. And it has the loaner car, so you don't have to do the motor in one day and transmission on the same day, and then do the timing chains. Then they all have to be done today. It takes some pressure off of you. But then go in there and realizing that, yeah, there's absolutely no pressure. It was too relaxed, and I would have been like I was running around that shop like your technician saying, I just feel unproductive. Yeah.
Here's
So
the
then
difference, though. Like, I pay my guys salary, so they make the same regardless of the amount of work they put out, which does allow for a more relaxed environment. At least, like, they don't need to feel pressure to get that car done, which does hurt the numbers sometimes. I mean, they could get that car out the door today if they pushed, but they don't.
Right.
So,
but sometimes when you're pushing is when things happen at
things go sideways. That's my
Exactly.
justification for it, by the way. I'm like, well, they'll make mistakes if I push, but that's not it. The mistakes still happen.
They still do. Then you get relaxed if you're not pushing, and stupid mistakes will happen then too. So
Yes.
it's hard.
Wasn't I bitching about that to you, Lucas?
You listen. You bitch about.
I bitch about everything. I know.
I don't
So
even know.
I have one tech who will. He's unbelievably talented, and he's done everything. So everything's easy to him, and everything's a little too easy for him. So he gets a little too relaxed about, I don't know, tightening things up, and he just, he takes a little too long, gets a little too relaxed, a little lackadaisical about his processes, and he misses things. And of course, he gets crap about it afterwards, and we have a discussion, and this, that, and the other. It turns into a whole thing, but it's because it's like, it's not a challenge for him anymore, and so he doesn't have to put as much effort into it. Where my other techs, they've never done that before, and so they're concentrating. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So one of the big things that keeps getting thrown up is that flat rate is killing our industry. And
Man,
is it true? Is that really what's causing all of the tech's problems?
It's all Mike Allen's fault.
So
he's not going to know this. This is 47 minutes into this podcast. He's not going to know. I'm calling him out. Mike Allen, you're wrong.
So let me just say one thing. As far as is flat rate killing it? Oh man, yes. Flat rate is not killing it if you're a B technician and you're banging out shock struts, alignments, tires, whatever it may be, and you can burn the hours. You can turn these hours. You can burn them. The flat rate is awesome. Okay, now let's say you become a level technician, and now you're not getting the shocks and the struts and the brakes and the 3-hour tickets you can get done in 45 minutes. You're getting the car that's been to 4 shops that they can't figure out, and here's an hour, figure it out. Okay, so I already know I'm going to lose my ass because there's already parts that have been replaced, and I'm sure there's more issues now because it's been in 4 other hands. so then you become a drivability tech and focus just on diagnostics. Can you still beat the flat rate hour? Yes. But if I looked at my hours over the last 10 years, when I was just pretty much a parts hanger and I made the shop a lot of money, you can see my hours change year by year once I started realizing the importance of the diagnostics and being the sole diagnostician in the shop, because I want to be 100% confident in each one of my calls. I'm not one to just pull codes and be like, hey, it needs a map sensor, or I don't do that. So I go to get my education to learn more on diagnostics and to properly diagnose these systems. And it's not a super, you can't take a 1 hour diagnostic and make the same kind of money as you could throwing shocks and struts. You just can't. You hope that you can get the work out of it. But if you're getting thrown 8 cars just for drivability, I got to a point that I wasn't even doing any of the repair work. Because I couldn't keep up, because I was doing every single diag that was coming through the shop, which I loved that. But you could see my hours go down each year. I still flat, instead of, let's say, 80 hours a week, now I'm doing 60 hours a week. Well, that's still a pay cut. So as I get smarter and the more I know as far as on diagnostics and to fully diagnose these systems, the less I make.
Well, so here I'm going to stop you and say this. So we talked about this recently on another podcast, and I think there again, this comes back to shop management, right? Because in our shop, the only rule is you have to stop before you get to 1 hour and come let us know we need to add additional testing.
Oh, okay. Now, we'll get into this. So yeah, keep going.
If there's a situation where we have a big issue, and and my guys are paid for 40 hours, and then they get bonuses based on the hours they turn. So they're paid for every hour they're here. They're, I think it's a very fair wage. But so my point is that if as long as the shop can remain profitable in doing that testing, right? So in the past couple of episodes, we've talked about the fact, why do techs stay at shops who wouldn't pay them for that time? Why do shops or why do techs stay in cruddy shops? I mean, how does that work? Why does that keep happening? Why are they not just packing up and going to a shop that pays training, and going to a shop that has some form of benefits, going to a shop that has culture, cares about their people, going to a shop? Because, I mean, there's tons of them out there.
I've yet to find one
of them out there
locally.
Dude, there are tons of them.
And trust me, I get it, and seeing, being on networking with you guys and everything else, and seeing that there are tons. And I honestly thought I was taking the step in the right direction by going to this other shop and everything. And that was another thing. They were going to pay for training to go to Super Saturday. Obviously, that didn't happen this last year, but that was another thing that was said that was that they would take care of, but it was honestly never brought up after.
So wait a minute, are you coming to ASTE? That's probably the biggest question I need to know right now. You're coming to ASTE, right? I mean, it's that simple. I mean, it's just a yes. That's all.
I just attended Vision. I need to see. Now I need to talk to my boss and see. So, which is myself now. So,
right. No excuses. I mean, I'm just going to take that as a yes. I mean, look, it's a great training event. All of your friends will be there.
I want to go to every single one that I possibly can. Obviously, now that I'm forking the bill for every single one of them. Seeing that's huge, because I'll tell you what, right? The Vision was not the same. It does, because Vision was not.
Sure,
my first Vision experience this year being online was I was not excited about it, and I didn't participate in the classes. I watched the classes afterwards as far as the recordings. I just it was not.
You lose quite a bit. You lose quite a bit not having it in person. Yeah,
you do. So I'm excited about being in-person training coming back and everything. That's huge, and I really do want to make it to ASTE. Is it going to be this year? I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm going to have to see the funds and time off or whatever. Obviously, trying to get my business built up to a point to where I can start taking some time off and taking advantage
Absolutely.
of those kind of things.
So you said that you had a reply, at least, because that ends up on the flat rate thing, because that was Mike Allen's pitch. He said, look, we're flat rate, and it all depends on good shop management. In other words, so he's got his guys and they're flagging, a ton of hours for him, and he's doing really well. But he has a ton of confidence in his service advisors to sell the work, sell the additional testing time, whatever it is that they need to make sure that his guys are getting 40 plus, and it's really 50 plus is what he's looking for, right? And they're there however many hours they're there, but he wants his guys well compensated, and so he knows he can't lose out on diagnostic time, and it's got to be profitable, otherwise they're not going to bother. And like Lucas is saying, it's a, hey, stop at 45 minutes and then come talk to me. Yep. Do we need additional testing time? What's the problem with that?
Okay, so the company I was at for 14 years, ever since the day I started there, and I started there, like I said, I was sweeping and mopping the floors. I was lucky to be starting out as a tech and not a GS. I was just probably a hair away from, I should have been a GS. But anyway, I grew within the company and everything and built a name for myself. That whole time I was at the company, everything was an hour. First of all, they could not put two, like a level 2 or a level 3 diagnostics onto a ticket. It was just one diag was all that was what the computer program would allow them to add to a ticket. So if it comes in with an airbag, an ABS, a transmission slipping, and a misfire, obviously that's not covered under the 1 hour diagnostics. So what I would do is I would go up to my service manager and, because that hour goes by real quick, and what system do you want me to diagnose? And his answer would be like, lady wants all the lights off. Okay. You understand that there's these 13 codes in here. 6 or 7 of these codes aren't even pertaining to the same thing. I understand things can overlap and everything else, but this isn't going to be covered under a one hour diagnostics. So we need to call the customer. Nope, just go ahead and fix it. I'll pay you. Okay, so he would come up to me. What do you need? 3-4 hours? I tell him, let's start out at a level 3 or 3 hours. He would not call the customer and sell that additional time. What he would do is pay me that time, not charge the customer that time, charge the customer that 1 hour. Let's say it's $100, and pay me on the back end, coupon my, what I did off that ticket at the end. So the customer thinks that any customer that comes to the door thinks that, it doesn't matter how many lights I have on, may have never, I've had this check engine light on for 10 years and now I have 30 codes in the system, $100 and they can fix this car. And
that upsets me.
That's not the case. So then when I was getting ready to leave and we talked about, and the CEO of the company was like, well, look, diagnostics and what you do for this shop is only 10% of
no.
Yeah. So he tells me that, and I was like, and I told him, I was like, okay, so let me ask you another question. How much was couponed off last month? He's like, well, what does that have to do with anything? I was like, no, and I'm curious, how much was couponed off last month? He looks, he's like, geez, $20,000. $20,000. Okay. You know how much of that is multiple diags that, on these cars? But here's the thing, your guys' computer system, you can't put more than one diagnostic on there. So you're not even coming at me and telling me what I'm or what I'm doing for this shop. It's not real numbers.
Well, so, a couple things, and I'll explain the way we do it in our shop is we say we're going to do a level 1 testing routine. In 90% of all cases, we're able to determine the cause or causes of your concern. In that other 10% of cases, we do have to come back just like you would if you went to a doctor's office, you fell, you hurt your arm, you go to the doctor's office, he looks at your arm and says, I can tell that it's abrased, I can see these bruises, but I need to do an x-ray to find out if your arm's broken, right? Additional test. I said, the only difference is I'm going to be nice about it. I'm going to tell you how much that test is before I bill you for it. And I'm going to get your authorization to leave you in control of this process the entire time. And so the technician goes out, he looks at the vehicle, he brings me a brief of data. Here's what we've got. Here's the trouble codes. Here's what I'm thinking. Now, I have got a technician who is learning the testing and inspection arena, and we will give him additional time and let him kind of, as David would call it, pokey time. But some time to play with the car a little bit and get a grasp and get some understanding and let him have that experience. But in the same respect, once you get to a point that you say, I can't go any further, he's coming to me and he's saying, okay, I need to do a fuel pressure test. I need to do a compression test. I need to do, right? Okay, how long is a fuel pressure test going to take? Well, it's going to take me half an hour. Okay, well, and we go back to the client and we explain each one of the things that we need to do, the results that we expect. This is going to be a good result. This is going to be a bad result. And we have to check this to determine if this is good. And the client can say yes or no. That's their choice. We're leaving them in control of the process. But I'm not doing it for free. And that, in my mind, is one of the key issues with our industry right now, is that we're not showing our clients how important and how much work and how much knowledge it takes to obtain this information. They think we're plugging a tool up to it and saying, oh, the code right there said that's what's wrong. Right?
I'm still waiting to buy that tool. So,
dude, me too. Me too. Brandon Dills said he was selling it, and turns out he's a liar. So I mean, I think that so much of this is solved with a simple process. But so many shop owners are really afraid of this.
No, they are. Right? They absolutely are.
And I think they're afraid of it because what if?
Hold on. You're trying to pivot here on this conversation. Don't pivot away from the conversation.
How am I pivoting?
You're pivoting. Hold on. One, I hate level 1, level 2. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. We're gonna do a level. No. 1, 2.
Is that a level 2?
Let's go back to this flat rate thing. Is that a viable way to handle things, Cody, in your mind? That's why we have you on. We want to see your opinion on this. Is that a good, reasonable solution to the flat rate and diag conundrum?
As far as what Lucas just mentioned?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And
I didn't want you to say that. I wanted an argument here.
No, but that's exactly what it is. And that's because, Lucas obviously got educated. I'm sure, I mean, if you came up with that yourself, then more power to you, Lucas. But I would guarantee you went to training and everything else and learned that. And that's where, what I was saying at the beginning of the conversation is, or the podcast was, it shouldn't just be the technicians going to these trainings and stuff. There's this kind of useful information out there that, teaching the service writers the value of the diagnostics and what's involved. If you're just going to coupon it off, how does that make me look? How does that make the shop look? It makes it look like we don't know what the heck we're doing when I have, $100,000 worth of just diagnostic equipment. That's not including one wrench that I pay for, and you're going to coupon it off. I mean, yes, I still get paid, but how does that look to the customer? If you sell it to the customer, and just like selling anything else, you're selling a service, and you're selling, we need to do a fuel pressure test, we need to do a compression test. If you were completely transparent with the customer and you're telling them how in depth and everything that these systems are, man, more power to you. And it shows the value of why they are paying that diagnostic fee. And it's not just plugging in a tool, and it's not doing X, Y, and Z. It's, it can take 45 minutes just looking up service information, description, and operation, learning how the system works if it's something you've never worked on before.
Yeah, I guess that's why I don't like the whole level 1, level 2, level 3. Like almost every single problem is going to get eaten up by looking up TSBs, looking up theory of operation, figuring out, pulling the Dwyer diagram, pulling codes. What are you at? 45 minutes at that point?
Yeah.
So, what is it really that you're going to tell the customer? It's like, well, we looked up, TSB theory of operation after we pulled codes, and we saw sort of the game plan, what we need to do from here on out. I understand there's certain systems that you can do that with. If you've got a simple like heater circuit problem on an O2 sensor, you're not going to charge $200 or 2 hours. Let's say, I'm going to put a dollar amount to it, but you're not going to charge 2 hours diagnostic time on that. It's one heater circuit code. Like, you should be able to figure that out in 45 minutes. Even the most, I don't know, the sophisticated heater circuits aren't that complicated. You should be able to diagnose it pretty quickly. But in situations where there are multiple codes and multiple systems involved, why not break it down into testing? For the most part, average misfire testing time is whatever, 2 hours, and 2 hours at your diagnostic rate. So that's what you tack onto the ticket. And you say, hey, looks like you've got a misfire, or the car's shaking like it has a misfire. Let's get you pre-approved for this type of testing. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do A, B, C, D, and E. We're going to take pictures of everything, so you're going to see exactly what we're doing, and then we're going to make our recommendations based off that testing.
Yep. I like that. And that is something that I ended up bringing up to one of the shops that I worked at, or the last shop that I worked at, was cars come in with no communication issues. That shouldn't start out at a level. Sorry, I know I keep saying it, but it doesn't come out to the one.
You shouldn't say that. Level 1, you've got no comms. Like, hey, this is going to be an issue. This is going to be difficult. Like, this isn't going to be a 2 hour. It may not even be a 2 hour. At the same time, though, if you've got a good diagnostician, they can probably knock it out in 2 hours. I mean, he's going to go into the topography. He's going to start pulling modules, and he's going to scope the can lines very quickly, and he's going to start pulling modules and say, boop, boop, boop. Yeah, I found the module that's pulling the whole system down. This thing's boo boo.
Let's say that let's say it's just a standard 3 hours for like a no-com issue. And you
can discount it at that point. I'm okay pulling hey, we found this thing on 45. No, I never give time, but we were able to find this thing pretty quickly.
Okay, but on that same note, the guy that's been doing it for 20 years and he was able to figure it out in 45 minutes on this complex network that has, 30 something, it's nothing to have 30 modules and stuff anymore, let's say. I guarantee his first time that he ever did that, it did not take him 45 minutes. So here's the thing: I could do three. I could spend 45 minutes. I can spend 45 minutes worth of work doing shocks and struts and make 3 hours. But if I figure out this complex no-com issue in 45 minutes, why am I not getting paid the 3 hours? Because I guarantee it went to anybody else, they wouldn't have been able to figure it out in 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a bad example. I'm mostly talking about like, hey, this thing was unplugged. I fixed it.
Right. No, and I get that. But that's where the flat rate, I feel, is, if you're a parts hanger, it's awesome. If you're a diagnostician, man, see, now that I'm mobile, I'm showing up to the shops. I'm the last resort. They've thrown parts at it. They have nowhere to turn. I showed up the other day and it was a relay. Figured it out in less than an hour, or less than 30 minutes, actually.
Yeah.
So less than 30 minutes.
Well, that's what Matt Skundrich was screaming about in the last podcast, one of the last few episodes. He was screaming about it. It's like, hey, it's $250 for him to even touch the car, because he knows every single car that he's going to look at has been parts cannoned and molested to no end. And so he knows this is going to turn into a cluster.
Oh, listen, you come to my shop and you tell me it's been in another shop or two other shops, or your boyfriend or your boyfriend's uncle or your uncle's boyfriend.
My other mechanic.
Dude, I'm telling you right then, it is automatically, listen, we're going to start with some testing. It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $400.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I think, yes, no, and I think that is, you mentioning that, and I think I heard that somewhere else. I don't know if it's Carm's podcast or not, but he said the same thing. And that is something that I mentioned to my last shop, and, they started doing it, and it did help, because it helped weed out some of the,
the riffraff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's and here's the problem, though. The other issue here I have with flat rate, you've mentioned the diag time, which I guess can be mitigated to some degree with the way Lucas does things. And I think Mike Allen does a very similar setup, right? My other issue with flat rate, though, is that it does essentially reward that type of work, the shocks, struts, brakes, banging it out as quickly as possible. You have to go at a certain pace. And I guess if you're, super fit and, it's maybe part of your workout, you're just going to be doing this daily. That's fine. But it does take a toll on your body, just like you're saying. At 14 years later, your body's aged significantly and that you're having back problems now and stuff. And that's going to be true of almost everybody. So long term, because, somebody comes to work for me, like how much growth within the company, like they can't get promoted to anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to get promoted to? I mean, I guess I could expand and then we'll have maybe a shop manager or shop foreman or whatever. Maybe, but I have no aspirations to own a second shop. So they come to work for me for the work environment and my commitment to them as skilled tradesmen. I want to invest in you. I want you to become the best technician you can possibly be. That's why you come work for me. And I like tools as well. So it's fun to me to go buy some new piece of equipment and play with it and hit the buttons and see what it does. And so those are all perks of coming to work for me, but you're never going to get promoted, right? Because there's nowhere to go. I mean,
right.
But they're all welcome to buy the shop. Any time they want to come buy the shop for me, they just need to bring me a piece of paper I will sign. Bring me my half honey bun. We're good to go. They can take it. Aside from that, what's the appeal in going to work at a flat rate shop? Even if it does have, maybe 2 locations like Mike Allen has, maybe he gets a 3rd location. It's like, well, maybe I'll be shop foreman. Maybe. If they even set up a structure like that. What's the benefit of being flat rate? You'll make a ton of money until your body breaks down at 45 or 48. At some point, the body's going to break, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, you can't work at that pace. What are they going to do with you?
Yeah, so
what do you think they're going to do with you?
There's going to be a younger gun coming
in. There's going to be a younger guy. Yeah, absolutely. Some younger guy's going to come in. And he's going to be
less. He's going to be less per hour. So, man, it's just a win-win. Hey, buddy, we don't need you anymore. You're kind of you're
breaking down
old Playboy anymore.
Sudden,
you're no good anymore.
So what's the appeal? Like, yeah, you'll make a ton of money, dude. I hope you're really good at saving it. Because you're going to have to either move into a different field entirely. So you're going to take all that knowledge and all that experience and go somewhere else. Go work at a parts store or go work in some other field because your body can't physically take the toll every single day. So what's the appeal in working at that pace? Even if it's for 15, 20 years, what's the appeal? Like, what's the end game here?
Okay. So 15, 20 years ago, I thought flat rate was awesome, because I was hanging parts and everything else. And it now fast forward to where I'm at now and, truly diagnosing vehicles. I mean, unfortunately, like the shops even reward, give me an 80% guess. What do you think it is? A gas cap on a diag or whatever. Like, if you don't know, let's just keep moving. Like, we'll throw some parts on it. That's obviously not the way I want to work or anything else, but man, flat rate, you feel rewarded for, let's just turn and burn. We'll figure it out if it doesn't fix it. My Identifix says 87 confirmed fixes on this, so let's just throw this at it and hope it sticks. We all know that,
and it works like 70% of the time. So
okay, and if it works 70% of the time, hey, that's still passing.
Yeah,
ASE testing, that's still passing. So you keep going with it, right? Not until did I really go in depth as far as diagnostics and understanding systems and wanting to know how they function and knowing how these systems work. Unfortunately, we're in an industry that the older you get, the less money you're going to make if it's flat rate. And the older that you get, the less money, the older you get, the less money you're going to make physically, because you can't turn those kind of hours like you could 20 years before that. And then the more you know, the less you make. So here you're the diagnostician. So there's the
perception, Lucas. There's the perception, and that's reality. Like that's a technician who's put the time in and now has progressed into a different level of knowledge and experience and expertise, saying, I can't hang struts all day at the pace that I could 20 years ago.
Okay.
So therefore I'm going to take a pay cut. So what does he do? He goes and becomes a mobile diagnostician. He could be a fantastic tech working at a shop right now, but he's not. He has to go do his own thing.
So I completely agree. And I see that, and I struggle with that as well, right? That's definitely a problem you've got to figure out how to work through. And especially with flat rate, that problem is definitely worse. And so, God, Eric's going to kill me. I have an older tech. His hair is thinning. He's
What's
definitely
wrong with that? Hey.
No.
Some of us lost our hair at 20.
Yeah, my hair's gone. So this was 14 years at my old shop. I had hair before.
Listen, you guys would have to
He
see
still has a thick head of beautiful flowing locks, Lucas does, and so he has no idea the struggle.
Yeah, you don't.
But so I guess my point is that I don't know the answer to that. Right. And if you're going to maintain a production-based pay plan, that is going to be a result of it. Right. And that is something we will have to figure out a solution for.
So this is and I'm going to throw this out there to you, Cody. I want you to tell me what you think. So I've got younger techs working for me. They're at least younger than me. Right. The ones that want to learn and they want to grow and they want to progress, I don't want them to leave the field. I want them to stay technicians. We need good, smart, motivated, engaged technicians. So I need to keep them in the industry. But I also recognize that, again, there's nowhere to go to progress. So you have to tap into what it is that they're excited about. And so what I'm looking at is, one, let's put them on a retirement plan. Let's make sure that they're socking money away into an IRA on the regular, because it doesn't take very much. Like, I tell my guys $75 a week. I pay them weekly. So you won't even notice it. But let's say that you're tight on your budget and you like, I can't give up $75 a week. Okay, let's figure this out. Let's sit down. Maybe it's a pay raise. Maybe, we move around the exemption money on the tax bill to see if we can find a way to get $75 post-tax money into a retirement fund. So when you do turn 50 or 55, you really don't need to work. You'll have $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million in the bank ready to go that you could live off of comfortably, right? So that's number one. Number two is, again, tapping into what it is that they're excited about. So for you, you're excited to do certain things within diagnostics, right? Or you mentioned ADOS. You're interested in ADOS. I had a tech come to me today and ask me about ADOS. He's like, he worked at a semi place before. And he's like, we were doing calibrations and I was doing them for the company that I worked for before. I'm interested in doing it here. And, we had a conversation about this thing is crazy expensive. I don't have the room, this, that, and the other. But maybe I take that conversation further. Let's figure out a way to keep you engaged. Let's figure out a way for you to maybe turn that into a side hustle that we can stem off of the business. I have one tech we're going to send to a class to learn how to rebuild modules, to virginize them and get them ready to flash a second time again, maybe repair the circuit boards, whatever. Guy's totally into it. Okay, whatever. Let's buy the equipment. Let's buy the training. Let's put you through the classes. Go practice. Here's a bunch of dead modules. We picked up a hot air doodad thing today. He's going to start messing with it. Let's get them engaged there. Let's find ways to add additional streams of income for the technician and the business, and then eventually move into training, into sharing those years of knowledge and expertise down the line. So when they are turning 45, 50, 55, maybe that's not necessarily, hanging brakes and doing steering and suspension jobs. Maybe we do have somebody coming in cheaper, but this person is at least doing diagnostic work and providing additional revenue streams to the business that they can also benefit, maybe a profit sharing program where we split it 50-50, whatever. I don't know.
That's
but
funny
at
you
least
said that, because I have that written down. Profit sharing, growth. It doesn't necessarily what I was looking for as a technician. It doesn't need to be, oh, I need to be the owner someday. No, just feel like I have the skin in the game, and profit sharing, 401k, everything that you're mentioning right now is all things that I was going to bring up. So keep going. I didn't want to cut you off, but that was
no,
I had to
I'm
mention that.
spitballing here. I don't know. I've had the conversation with one of my techs that he has the mind, at least, to learn this, like get really, really good at this thing, and I can absolutely sell his skills to other shops in my area, to other shops around the country. Like, we can do this in the back of the shop. I've got space for it. We can set up a bench. You can start just banging out modules all day long. And yeah, I mean, you're going to come out to the shop and help with diagnostic work, but I can find somebody who is going to be cheaper to hang brakes and do steering and suspension all day long. But this person that has gained all this knowledge doesn't need to leave the business because their body's broken down. They can find other ways to use their minds to help bring revenue to the business. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, what you're mentioning right now, and why couldn't he, like how you're mentioning, kind of subletting him out to other shops or whatever? Yeah, why couldn't he be other shop? I don't know how many shops are doing programming and stuff in your area and stuff, but if
nobody's doing that,
you have a brick and mortar, but you're also providing a mobile service for these other shops that don't have to pay for a tow bill or don't have to send it to the dealer or anything like that. My back is the best it's ever been, is because I'm not pulling transmissions and motors and humping work, 10 to 12 hours a day and stuff anymore. I'm still working those hours, but I'm not, it's not the strenuous kind of work. It's more using my mind than it is, actually turning the wrench and doing both. So
yeah,
as things get older, and it's still, the more and more that we go into the future and the technology and everything else, and knowing how modules work and everything, that's going to be a skill set within itself. So if you could, keep him within the company, make him feel that he's at home, and allowing him to grow, which means that you also grow as the business. Man, more power to all of that. I think that's brilliant.
I think it's brilliant too. But let me be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah,
because it takes a technician who is extremely motivated to learn. It takes a technician that has tremendous ability. It takes a technician who has tremendous drive. Right.
So other than the drive, I wouldn't hire somebody that I didn't think had the talent or the potential talent,
absolutely,
to be exceptional technicians.
But hear me out. Right. And that's one of the things that I want to bring up about this. And one of the reasons that I keep bringing this up and somewhat coming back to this is that when we are going to put somebody in that position, right, we've got to be able to bill appropriately for them. We've got to set up a process and a procedure, just like you talked about, on how we're going to return that investment back into the shop, because we do have to have a return on investment. That's just how business works, right? But I guess my point is that there's a lot of technicians who are already aged to that point, and they don't have those abilities. What are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
How are we going to handle this situation of these older guys who are being phased out now? I think it's a great solution, David. I think it works.
They need to realize that they're getting phased out, and they need to pivot. Look, if I'm 55 and I'm working at a shop, and I'm, weren't you talking about it with Tanner, or was Tanner the one talking about it?
Yeah, we were talking about the fact they don't even know how to use a cell phone.
Yeah, the guy couldn't use a cell phone, and his wife uses the email address for him because he doesn't know how to do it. So that guy's getting phased out. And it doesn't sound like he has any interest in furthering his career or like shifting his career. Let's call it that. It's not even furthering. It's just, I need to pivot because I can't do this for 20 more years. Also, I don't have any retirement. I'm saying like they need to be, especially if they're young. And I know there a lot of the shop owners listening to this podcast are younger shop owners or they have younger crews. And so they need to start looking at what is this going to look like in 20 years? Do I really want to and I understand the whole there needs to be an ROI, but my argument would be if that guy leaves in 5 years with all of the training, all of the time that you've put into him, the investment you've put into that person, the rapport you have them, they know you, you know them, there's a relationship there, and there's a certain level of trust that's been built there. That person up and leaves because whatever reason, like you didn't want to put any, they didn't see any potential. Like Cody's been saying, I didn't see the next step. It just, all I saw was a brick wall. They see that because you're like, well, there's no immediate ROI for me to do this. It's got to be like, I got to look at it and what is this going to look like in 5 years? If I can start building it now, then in 5 years, the guy doesn't up and leave. Because if I don't do anything about it now, in 5 years, this guy's going to, maybe 5 years, but it might be 3. But sooner or later, this guy's going to up and leave. And then I'm going to be starting back to square one. I'm going backwards and going, I have to hire the 23-year-old now that doesn't know how to do anything, just fresh out of school.
And I don't disagree with you, David. That's not my point. I agree 110%. But my problem is still yet it comes back to the business has to be able to generate revenue. I'm not okay with even taking a service like that and saying to allow our technicians to continue to have a space in the business. I will work my tail off for that. Right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, you know, and to add to what you say, what happens if they do leave? Right? We're building another phase of this business. We've got to make sure that because what happens if, God forbid, something happens, they're hurt in an accident, they can't work, they're killed. Right? We have to make this a reliable source, or I don't want to say reliable source of income, but it has to be
I don't
reliable.
think it needs to turn into a burden where you're like, oh, I got to have redundancies and stuff like that. Or maybe that's overcomplicating the idea.
Yeah, but I mean,
mind.
when I guess my problem with that
the
is
only
that
thing keeping me from shutting down the shop tomorrow is the debt that I've incurred. So I just don't incur any debt in anything because if I could shut the shop up tomorrow and just turn the lights off and say, here, go to this shop now, you know, we're closing the business, you know, it'd be very tempting. Let me say that.
Yeah, but see, I don't feel that way. I really enjoy serving my clients. So if I've provided a service for them, they're used to me providing that. I'm going to be the one over here freaking out. Like, how am I going to continue to provide this service? Something happened to Johnny. Now I don't have Johnny anymore. What do I do now? Right. And I think that's one of my concerns. I don't think it's a bad idea. And that was the whole point of the podcast is to talk about the solutions, talk about what it is that we can do. And I think it is a fantastic idea. I really like it. But I think there's, you know, if you don't take the devil's advocate, Dutch is going to yell at all of us.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm okay. Like I want somebody to disagree with me because that's how we hash things out, and that's how we derive to truth from ideas and concepts. We're going to pull the truth out through dialectics, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the devil's advocate, and I get that. I guess my point is though it has to be seen as an investment that is going to pay off in 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to put in whatever, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year into this tech, in equipment and training, so that in 3 to 5 years, this is going to produce some revenue to the business, but most importantly, it's going to keep them within the business and engaged in the business as something that they can grow themselves. It's almost like brand building. Let's build up my technician's brand. You see what I'm saying? Like Cody's building a brand, his AutoMD thing. Like when I mentioned to one of my texts, I said, "Hey, I'm going to have Cody on." He's like, "The AutoMD guy." I'm like, "Yeah, the AutoMD guy." And so he's building a brand there, right?
Right.
So why not do that within the shop? And you could, you know,
I love it. I think it's a great idea.
The market's there. Like it doesn't have to be very big, but why couldn't a technician see that as an opportunity to grow? It's like what Mario's doing. It's what Cody's doing. But it almost seems like those guys, you, Cody, I hate to speak like you're not standing or sitting in here listening.
I'm not standing there, but I'm sitting.
Like, look at Mario. I don't know who the shop owner is for his shop. And if he does, like, if I had Mario Rojas working for me, trust me, everybody would know that Mario Rojas is working for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would be throwing his name out constantly because he's building a brand. Like, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. And so why wouldn't it's the same reason why we have anybody on this flipping podcast? Like, hey, he's got a big audience, let's have him on the podcast and talk about stuff, right?
Yeah, I was told I wasn't allowed to film anymore, so I'm glad Mario has somebody that supports his channel and him.
Okay, so there you go. So you were told that you couldn't even film.
Yeah, and granted,
that's my point. Like, what are you doing?
Well,
what is that person doing?
Well, and here's the thing. There are some, in the beginning, I would their quick videos or whatever while I was at work, in between, like just showing an RC test, whatever it may be, just quick, down and dirty tests or whatever. If it was a little bit further diagnostics or anything else, that's when I would be going in at 5 o'clock in the morning to film. So it's not even on company time is when I was even doing it. So, when we got
why wouldn't you want to attach your shop name to that? Like,
okay, but here's the funny thing.
Why wouldn't you say like, hey, Cody works for me?
Yeah,
he works at this shop.
Like, so here's the funny thing about it. So like I said, my that company got bought out by this wannabe tire company, right? And the new CEO, I've never met him before. He comes over and he's like, see him in the shop, and he's over there looking at my toolbox and kind of scoping it up and down and everything. And he turns around, he's like, "Oh, you're Cody." I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, I've seen you before. I've seen you on YouTube. I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, we actually Googled something on fixing a vehicle, and your video came up." He's like, "Oh, awesome, awesome video and everything, and we got the vehicle fixed because your video and everything. But I'm gonna have to ask you, you can't film." Oh, okay. Like, oh, got it.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
But you're telling me, look, didn't Mario throw up the post in ASOG, and he said, hey, should technicians pay for their own training? And, the overwhelming majority of shop owners said no. Of course, if you were like, yes, you see 800 no's, you're not going to jump in there and be like, yes, and then want to argue with everybody else. So, most of the shop owners stayed quiet. But there were a few on there that got on there and said, I'm worried about them leaving. If I'm going to drop whatever, $750 was whatever the cost of a full package at Vision, plus airfare, plus the rental, plus the hotel. So you're going to be in it for whatever, $2,000 for this technician to go to Vision. And then a month later, the guy puts his 2 weeks in. You're going to see that $2,000 is wasted money. I mean, you're going to be pissed. I've done it. I've spent the money on the technician, and then the technician bails, or I have to fire the technician because they do something unbelievably stupid. And so, you can see it as waste of money. So they're like, what about a contract that they pay me back for the training that I spent my money on if they decide they're going to leave, or if I have to fire them, I can recoup my costs.
Yeah, no, I think that's I think that's good, honestly. And
I would be offended if my shop owner came to me, if my business owner came to me and said, "Hey, I need you to sign this because I want to spend the money on training, but I also don't want you to leave."
Yeah,
like, holy crap! What makes you think I'm going to leave? Are you going to do something that's going to make me want to leave? Well, no. Then why? What the hell? Like, what are you doing?
And it's kind of double-edged sword. So obviously that company I was at for 14 years, I went to every single training that I possibly could. When we got bought out, shortly after that, I gave it a little while. I tried to, feel the waters. I'm okay with things changing, but there was this, obviously it was just going a different business model than I felt I wanted to work for. So when I put in my 2 weeks, I got, I was told that, I owe $2,700 for the training for the last, I don't know if it was the last year No, it was $1,200 for the last year of putting in my 2 weeks. Now, granted, this was not in the handbook until we got bought out. And once we got bought out, obviously I didn't even really read through the handbook. I was like, man, it was just a joke. But it was in there that, yeah, if you put in your 2 weeks notice, that any training within that year, you had to pay back. I looked at it as kind of coming into this podcast was a positive perspective that, look, I just, spent 14 years, taking advantage of every single training class I possibly could. And it cost me $1,400. Not horrible. I mean, you can't even do a couple semesters at college and stuff for that. So I felt that it was money well spent. But I was a little ticked about it because I was already leaving on a sour note that, that this company doesn't see the value in myself and would rather hire 4 tire guys because it's more profitable on the back end, how they're able to get their trips and everything selling tires. So I was a little upset about getting that bill, but then after I sat down, I thought about it. I was like, it is what it is. Is that going to give you a peace of mind being a shop owner that, and it may make the techs think differently too, that, hey, are you serious about this company? And are you just going to this training just to be going to the training? Or are you actually going to, pay attention and make it worth your while? Because I will say, if I would have started going to training at 21 years old, I would not be the guy sitting in the front of the class like I am now, wanting to, retain every single bit of information that I possibly can. I was just in a different headspace then. When I was 21 years old, I don't know if I would have hired myself, but what I turned into and the dedication and the loyalty I had to that company was remarkable. And I would still be working there, honestly, if we didn't get bought out and things stayed the way that they were. So that being said, man, I was die hard, super loyal to that shop, but everything happens for a reason. And this, I've moved on from that, but it was kind of like, it was a breakup when I was putting in my 2 weeks, man. I'm sitting there crying with my manager and stuff. I was like, man, I don't want to, I don't want to leave, but I felt that I had to for me. Now, will that make you feel better as far as having your tech sign that piece of paper? Possibly. Will it piss off some technicians? Possibly. I guess it all depends on how
it's a calculated risk.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a calculated risk no matter what.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
A really interesting perspective, though, right? That it forces them to look at it and say, how serious am I about this? And I don't, and I'm not going to ask my techs to pay me back for the training. It is, and David, you've met George. George is a real close friend of mine. He worked for me, and he took the things that he learned in going to the trainings we went to on technical and management, and he's running his own business now, doing something completely different in another field. And he calls me all the time and says, hey, you remember we went to this class and this happened? I just used that today in my business doing this.
Nice.
Right. I think it's about improving people's lives. Right. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's not just about dollar bills. It's about improving the quality of life for those around us. And for me, this is my family. This is everybody in this shop is part of my family.
That sounds nice, because you always make everything sound so like warm and fuzzy, but there has to be something tangible. Like I think for the shop owner that's listening to this,
I would tell you, Jesus.
For the shop owner that's listening to this, and they're like, well, I need to quantify that. Like, what does that mean that they're family? Well, you need to look at it and say, this needs to be a long-term relationship. Like, this is not me just assuming that they're going to be here for 2 to 3 years, and then I'm either going to fire them or they're going to quit or find something else, and then we start back over with the process. It needs to be an understanding that, hey, I do plan on you being here for a very long time. I don't plan on the business going under anytime soon. This is a business that I've established to last 20, 30 years. Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll pass it on to my kids, whatever. But in the meantime, let's sit down and let's map out what it is that you want to get out of your time here. Because otherwise, they're just putting in time. And then if you have that conversation and then they come back with, I don't know, it's whatever. Like, I'm just putting in my time. It's just a paycheck for me. then maybe they're not the right person. Maybe you don't put the time and training to and invest in that person. Maybe you do move on.
How many shop owners do you know that have that luxury right now?
Of what?
Of saying, hey, if you don't have any goals or aspirations for being here aside from just putting in your time, how many, if you're going to go out and start a hiring campaign right now, how many shop owners do you know that would feel that they have the freedom to be able to ask that question?
I have the freedom to do that tomorrow.
Right, because you'll just close the doors and be like, well, whatever, man, sucks,
No. If I needed to find a technician tomorrow, I am very confident I'd be able to find a technician tomorrow. And I'm not saying you turn around and fire the guy, but at the very least, you know that this is not going to be the person that you want to invest any time in and any time and money into. And so you start looking for alternatives that you do then end up squeezing the guy out and say, hey, I'm going to bring in this other person. Maybe
Meanwhile,
you're not
Cody's
the good
over
fit for
here
the
saying
company.
like, maybe this is what's wrong with the automotive industry. Maybe David's over here talking about squeezing people out.
Well, I'm sorry, but if the guy like that person's not right, that guy needs to go work at the chain that just wants to do tires and brakes and steering. Especially, I'm saying they don't have a place in the industry. They absolutely have a place in the industry. I'm just saying it's not at my shop because I don't.
That was my point earlier.
If they're not engaged in the business, if they're not engaged in improving themselves, like. Then what's the point? Like, hey, dude, I get it, but in like 10 years, you're not going to be able to get out of bed without popping a whole mess of leaves just to get it to work. Like, so what's your game plan then? What are you going to do at that point there, cowboy? And he's going to be like, oh, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it then, I guess. Well, that's idiotic. Like, dude, come on. Let's think about this now.
And I will say, so, how I was I think I was 24 when I started with that company. I was in a different mental state and everything. I've always been a hard worker and everything else. And I always put my best foot forward and stuff, but right off the bat, I didn't fully start taking advantage of the training and stuff. I remember being at a Christmas party, at the company Christmas party, and they're doing employees of the month, and this one guy, Kenny Davis, is a really good buddy of mine. I didn't know who he was at the time, or I heard of him at the time. He was a guy that graduated UTI, started working for the company as a GS, and within like 6 months, he was master certified and a master tech within the company. Obviously, we know the certs don't make you and stuff, but I just remember looking at him as fully, I was impressed of everything that he accomplished at such a young age, because he was younger than me and stuff. And that right there started making me try that much harder to, what, I know I didn't go to UTI, and I can't go back in time and to go back there and everything, but I can put my best foot forward and take advantage of everything I can possibly. And now Kenny and I, it's neat to see that, how much he's grown, how much we both have grown, and how far that I've come. That, he was a driving force for me, that he didn't even know it. He didn't even know me at that time. But just, I remember, I can even picture where I was sitting and everything, that he inspired me and he didn't even know it. Now, let me say something as far as like, okay, so what about even taking a chance, because you don't know everybody like right off the bat, like, are they dedicated to training? And maybe it is taking a shot in the dark and sending somebody that you may think that is on the cusp of like wanting to grow and better themselves and everything, and then sending them to an ASTE, and then maybe that's the fire under their ass that they needed, that they come back like, I had no idea, that it, the industry was anything like this. Because that right there, those conferences and those, the networking and everything else, God, you can't help. I don't care who you are. You can't help coming back just being like, let's kick some butt. You know what I mean? Like, as a company, as everybody. And, I guarantee it, I really feel it'd be real hard for any technician to go here, and then unless they just flat out just hate the automotive industry, to not come back, as far as, feeling like that was just just refreshed and ready to kick some ass,
I guess I would be apprehensive sending anybody that showed a certain level of apathy towards the job. Then, and they were explicit about it. But if they showed some interest, and especially if you didn't have a track history with that person, if they hadn't been with you for very long, maybe they didn't show that much excitement to go to the local training. Maybe they weren't interested at all in doing any online training, because that's a whole different type of person that wants to do online training versus in person. And so, yeah, maybe you do send them to an ASTE, which is very inexpensive. And it's something that you can at least send them to. Maybe if you're maybe not from the West Coast, but if you're anywhere within driving distance, even if it's a 4, 5, 6 hour drive to get to ASTE, that's a no brainer. That's absolutely a no brainer. And what does Adam drive? 8 hours to get to ASTE, and he loads everybody up in the car. Like the whole shop gets in the car and they drive down.
And that's a drop in the bucket. 8 hours to go to awesome training. I look at that.
Well, I mean, at least you can get a good feeler on them and see how they react to it.
Absolutely,
because I think they come back from ASTE, and if they're not if you're saying, if they're not all juiced up and excited about the industry and excited about where they could go or progress, then maybe that isn't the right person.
Well, would you rather find out then
with the attempt to sell them the idea up front? Right. And say, look, this is what could happen. We can set you up with a retirement fund. We can start moving you into much more sophisticated levels of repair. And I mean, nobody is going to be willing to put in that kind of effort to learn electric vehicles, to learn module, rebuilding, to learn, how to properly diagnose and repair 1234 systems, whatever it happens to be. Find the blue ocean, right? And then push your technicians down that path and say, I'm going to find the blue ocean for my technician, even, because it could be extremely niche and very hyper specific to a certain market, and then push them down that path and see, hey, there's no reason why in 20 years, rather than banging out that brake job, you're not instead doing training classes on this subject.
Exactly. Yep.
And the shop gets a taste. That's all I'm saying. Or the shop is the event, or where the events take place. You know what I'm saying? You clean everything out and you put some chairs up, and that's where you do the classes, and you take a location fee.
Yeah. Yep. No, I absolutely agree. And that's another avenue of, granted, that's not going to be every single technician wants to go down that path as they get older and stuff, but that's something that I, working with a bunch of these, I hate to say it, like old timers and stuff, but, working with a bunch of old timers that are, late 60s or, late 60s, still throwing transmissions around and motors and everything else, man, they are just beat up.
Those guys are freaks of nature at that age doing those kind of, they are specimens. Most people, like you're saying, their bodies break in their 40s, late 40s, early 50s, their bodies break, and then they have to get out of the industry, or they move to the shop that, does one car a day, and then they drink beer the rest of the afternoon.
My mentor at my old location and stuff, he was he's an old timer, but I mean he's the one that actually got me into programming and everything else. So he's, yes, he can do the carburetors, but he can program the modules, and he can do, he is impressive. But he's 58 years old, and he works from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. I mean, that is his schedule, and he bangs out 100 hours a week, and still to this day. And I don't know, there's just no slowing down for him, so he was my idol for a long time, until I realized that, man, I missed out on 8 years of my daughter's life. I wasn't there for any volleyball games. I wasn't there for her football or for her soccer games. I wasn't there for, I missed out on her life, and I can't take any of that back. And now she lives in Indiana and stuff. So, I mean, that's something that kicks me every single day. That, I should be able to make a decent living. I should be able to have a nice career. But I should be able to also, have time with my family, and it doesn't have to be just, work or family. It should be a balance of both.
And just in my mind, this is my personal opinion. I think the flat rate shop, I think, engenders that mindset that it's work, 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 work.
Yep.
It's and it was a shop owner, maybe it was I think it was a shop owner, was talking about how in order to not stop, the flat rate technicians send the hourly guy to go pick up lunches.
Oh yeah.
So they don't have to go to lunch.
Yep.
What's that?
That's exactly how we did it at our shop. Like
that's nuts to me, though.
We would not leave. The only time I would leave that shop is if I needed, if I was pissed off at a car or whatever it is, and then I would go and get lunch, and then 15 minutes later I'm back working. So that's exactly how it is. There was no stopping for, you get your hour lunch, there was none of that. It was
whoa. Hold up. You're saying other shops don't take an hour for lunch every day?
No.
Get out of here. You don't take an hour for lunch. No, that's not true.
We take an hour for lunch every single day.
I've gotten the phone calls. I'm picking up lunch. Hey, where are you going? We had barbecue yesterday. We should do something different today. Yeah, I've heard those phone calls.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're all sitting around. Now, Eric typically tries to work through lunch. I have to yell at him to stop. But
if they want to work through lunch, it's whatever. It's different, though. Like, sometimes, I've got one tech who will not cut his lunch short. I mean, he will take his full lunch. But the other guys, if we're busy and they have work sitting on their rack and they're like, hey, I got to get back to getting this knocked out, they'll eat and then they'll go back to work. But it's not normal at our shop. It's normally, hey, what are we doing for lunch? And it turns into a 45-minute conversation about lunch. But that's why I talk about like having an idea of what you want to do with the business. Because and I'm not disparaging the empire builders, right? The Seth Thorsons of the world that like it's like, okay, great, I'm going to turn this into a 7-figure shop as quickly as possible so I can start building my other 7-figure shop and then another one and then another one. I have nothing against those guys. My problem is that they are the 1%. They're the freaks of nature. They're the guy that's still banging out 100 hours at 58.
Yeah.
That's a freak of nature. That they're the Michael Jordans. Like, you're never going to get another Michael Jordan. I'm sorry. There'll never be another Tom Brady. They're one in a million. They're so rare. That's not the majority of shops. The majority of shops are just it's a shop, but it's a way to build to make a living, and maybe they want to build something for their family or leave a legacy or whatever. And sitting down and mapping that out, and what is this shop going to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? What is it that I really want to get out of this business? And then game planning around that, as opposed to being sold the idea that I have to hit these crazy numbers at all costs. Because that's what a lot of these coaching groups and consultants, that's what they do. Like they're like, hey, we could get you in a boat. I know how to get you in a boat. Let's get you a boat. In a yacht too. It's not a little boat, not a little rowboat. Let's get you into a big boat. And so we're going to sell you this idea that if we hit these huge numbers, you're going to live this extravagant life. And that might be fine, but for some people, I guess my hesitancy in saying, yeah, that's great for everybody isn't like, I guess I have to, be able to sleep with myself, because I know at the end of the day, like, if my guys are having to send an hourly guy out so they don't have to stop because it's going to lower their numbers, and we're just coming out and just pushing, and just constantly just pushing because we need to hit another 5,000, another 10,000, another 15,000, whatever. You're just trying to push another hour, another 2 hours, another 5 hours out of each tech. And tweak it down to then create what exactly? Like, you're building this empire that's great for the empire builders, but for everybody else, the normies, the regular shop owners, they're like, where does it stop? And what's enough money for you? Right. Is it like you're saying, Cody? It's not always about the money. It's like, well, I'm missing out on the soccer game. Well, so are your techs.
Absolutely.
And because you're pushing them so hard, they're missing out on the soccer games too. So are you okay with that? And some people may be okay with that. And you know what? That's your choice. I can't be okay with that. Like I'm going to be bothered by that and go, maybe I should change the way I do my business because I don't need the extra 5, 10, 15 hours out of that tech. I don't need it. I'm okay with them flagging 40. I'm okay with them flagging 30, in fact. And we'll still make money. And I'll still be okay, and I can still play with my toys.
Let me find that voice message. Where's that at? Hang on just a second.
I admitted to Lucas one time, like how few hours we need to flag in order for me to be profitable. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we hit this number. If we hit this number early on in the week, like, guess what, Lucas, this week? Yup.
Well, look, for me though,
it's Wednesday. I'm going to coast the rest of this week. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
I went out and bought a machine at 12:34.
My drive is my clients, though, right? Is I've got all these people who are depending on us to keep their vehicles safe and reliable. They're here. They want their vehicle fixed, and there's lots of them. As a matter of fact, I'm out of parking spots, and that sucks because you don't know how hard it is to work dump trucks in and out of very tight parking lots anyway. And so that's my drive, is that I want to serve the clients. That's really the drive behind me that keeps me pushing and moving forward with trying to do more, is because I want to serve all the clients we can and take care of them. You know, it's not really about the money for me. And when we experience things like, we had a record year and we worked to make sure that the techs were also having record years. I think for me is, I hate to use the term servant leader, but that's the way my parents were. I grew up like that. I believe in serving other people and helping other people and making people the best they can be. And so for me, that's my drive behind growing the business and doing better, to see what we can do for other people. That's my drive.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the ASOG podcast. We have several more conversations coming your way from the most influential technicians in the industry today. So if you'd like to catch these episodes early, you can do so by becoming a patron. Just go to asog.site, that's ASOG.site, and click on the Become a Patron Now button. Becoming a patron helps support the show, gets you several perks, and is tax deductible. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and on YouTube. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you have any topic suggestions, please reach out to me via email. My email address is david@asog.site. That's DAVID@asog.site. Until next time.